Y'all stole my thunder. I'm Sandy Lowe, and I'm Margaret's mom. And what a privilege having her as my daughter. I want to thank you all for your attendance today. Your coming is really a true act of bravery. Thank you for sustaining and participating in her life, and most of all, for loving her. For all of us, we are humbled. Now let us celebrate the life of Margaret Helen Lowe, or Sweet Pea. Before I begin to speak of Margaret, let me send out a few special thank yous to Susan Lowe and her staff in the development office. You have provided a safe haven and become trusted friends. To the head of school, Stephanie Ballmer, you suggested this event to memorialize Margaret, and we are grateful. To Mr. Abraham, you planted the seed for Margaret's study of the classics, and your speech today was so heartfelt. I know it was difficult for you to speak, and again, thank you. Thank you to the chamber choir, to Ellen DeWitt and Emily Stewart for your music of praise. It's the music that brings me to tears. To Anna Caroline for your reflections and your longtime friendship. To the Harpeth Hall faculty who expanded her world in the classroom and beyond this campus. To Jenny Greenstone and her many other sports coaches who mentored her love of the game. To the Winterim team who traveled to China during the cold month of January. On top of everything she did, she also climbed the Great Wall. To Dr. Eckert, one of the first notes we received after her death was as he described Margaret as Beatrice in Dante's Inferno. I think about it all the time. To her faithful classmates and friends that pushed her to be her best. To Joan Curry, who so reverently sculpted her hand and taught her the freedom of art. To the Bible study mothers who encouraged her study of the Word. To her summer camp counselors who taught her to play with children. To Jess Hill, who supported us when she had to leave school because of her eating disorder. Finally, to Aunt Eve, whom Margaret admired and wanted to be just like. You were always ahead of the curve in the education of young women, and your legacy lives on in Mrs. Ballmer. Aunt Eve is a tough act to follow. It took a village of warriors to raise and contain Margaret's force of nature. Many of you I've singled out. There are countless others. To Margaret's other mothers who cared for her when I could not. Thank you from the bottom of my broken heart. To the team of families who rallied during her funeral weekend and beyond. Have you ever witnessed so many mouths to feed? Our days have been filled with listening ears, nourishing food, bright and happy flowers in our home and in the church, and shoulders on which to cry. To Betsy Brewer, her oldest friend, and her mother Mary, who never forget. She was Pooh to your piglet. To Nancy Odell for my cherished necklace I wear today. To Ann Waddy, who gathered a precious book of memories and is always there for me. To Laura Hill for our hikes. To the many who traveled from afar to attend her funeral. Thank you to Margaret's extended family, who witnessed her growth and development every step of the way. Did you know that Donna Dalton telephones me every morning at 8:30 a.m. to ask, how are you today? Obviously, she gets varied answers. You, my dear friend, have taught me how to grieve, to lean in and embrace each moment regardless of the pain, to not be afraid or rush the process. All of these are acts of love. I would like to start Margaret's story with her place in our family. Margaret loved and praised her father Whitson. He taught her the Bible and how to trust the Lord above. She memorized Matthew chapters 5 through 7, the Sermon on the Mount, at age 5, and could recite it with little prompting. That was their bedtime prayer. She was his scuba buddy. She put her life and her hands in his heart. She rode with him and hiked with him and picked apples in the rain with him. She taught him how to dance. She cuddled and shared her heart with her younger brother, Mark. She encouraged his decision to leave school and to serve his country in the Army. He was by her side during her darkest days. He spent his summer laboring stone by stone, creating Margaret's garden in preparation for her college graduation. Now we have a daily reminder of his dedication to her. She loved and admired her older brother John and wanted nothing more than to be close to him. He shielded and protected her. They enjoyed watching movies. They enjoyed eating and cooking together in the kitchen and became closer as they got older. To Jessica, who has taught John to be a better brother and a better man, you have supported and loved us all. Margaret had no biological sisters, chosen ones here at Harpeth Hall and in the Pi Beta Phi sorority. We are grateful for the masses of notes and letters we have received. They have truly sustained us. I have read and categorized each and every one. Your words have inspired me to create a miracle box. As my eyes have opened and my heart has broken enough to see things that used to pass me by. What do you call a wife who loses her husband? A widow. What about a husband who loses his wife? A widower. And a child who loses its parents? An orphan. There is not a word for a parent that loses a child. It is too awful. Margaret Helen had 7,937 days on this earth, 21 years, 8 months, and 23 days. She would have been 22 years old on December 9th. Many of you remembered her that day. We are grateful she was not forgotten. We have endured many firsts in the last 3.5 months. Her anniversary of her death, the first of every month. Thanksgiving, her birthday, and now Christmas. Many of you witnessed Margaret's demons, her drive to perfectionism, her anorexia, and best of all, her recovery. She worked hard at it. She would call me when life was stressful, and she only wanted me to listen, not offer advice. It took me a long time to learn the art of listening. I hope many other mothers have learned it before me. She did not cuss or take the Lord's name in vain. She confronted me when I did. Margaret was an old soul, a letter writer. Many of you have had the privilege of receiving her beautifully written words. She was a poet and an author. She composed the songs of her life. She kept to-do list. Of the 116 things to do before you graduate at the University of Virginia, she completed 75. She was going to have a very busy year checking them all off. Let me tell you about her magical bicycle, Stella. It was a metaphor for her life. Cycling to Margaret was rideable art. with an endless canvas. It required vigilance, balance, and continued forward movement. Otherwise, she would crash. She became an expert of asphalt as she pedaled over 5,000 miles during the summers of 2014 and 2015. She saw the United States exposed to the elements without windshield wipers. She spoke of a tailwind as a symphony and a headwind as a monster. It was fitting that her nicknames were Sunshine and Monster. The time she spent looking down sweetened her gazes looking up. The minutes of her life ticked by as the mile markers advanced. She thought that if she rode long and hard enough, her loneliness wouldn't catch up with her. During her 10-week Southern United States ride this summer, she lived out of a plastic bin. All of her belongings fit with room to spare. She did not carry extra baggage. She did not have her laptop and rarely used her telephone. She carried her Bible, an American flag, and her accumulated Junior Park Ranger badges on her camelback. She rode through 5 national parks. She climbed 19 miles of Half Dome in Yosemite National Park in a day after a 106-mile ride. She rested in a hammock overlooking the Grand Canyon on July 4th. She endured 120-degree heat in Death Valley. She swam with alligators in Louisiana. She begged for food and slept on the ground with only a thermarest for padding. She overcame her fear of bugs. She did not wear makeup and wore sunscreen, and she chopped off all of her beautiful hair. I thought her pixie cut suited her. These are experiences many of us will not have in a lifetime. She filled hers up. She lived every precious moment. Margaret did not know she was going to die. She was fearless. She loved color. The brighter the better. Her hopes and dreams were vivid. Her agenda included hiking the Appalachian Trail right after graduation. I had attended 2 classes with her. Then she would take the MCAT and go to medical school. She would have been a fine physician. She desperately wanted to be a wife and mother. She wanted to raise a family. She loved the name Julia. She was not trapped by things. She left space for people and experiences. After her death, Whitson, John, Mark, and I had to pack up her apartment in Charlottesville. She lived in a room no bigger than a closet. She was very organized. Everything had its place. Her bed was made. Her PJs and sleeping socks were folded on her pillow. A white rose and letter from the Angel Secret Society rested on her nightstand. All of her belongings, including 2 bicycles, fit into the back of Wanda, her Honda. She was a dreamer. She was shy. The classics suited her. The fantastical stories of mythology allowed the Bible to make sense. She treated her body well. She did not abuse substances. She slept soundly and would only eat in the company of others. She practiced the art of conversation. She would ask 3 questions of her dining partner before she spoke of herself. She thought that was important. She practiced the art of listening, resisting the pull to fill the room with her words. As long as she drew breath, she had the ability to broaden her view and stretch her heart. Her legacy is great. She left her mark. Her body lives on in others as the gift of organ donation. I pray the recipients honor her. Scholarships at Bike and Build and Camp Kesem have been established. Children will learn to play, and riders will build homes in the name of affordable housing all across the United States. North Face has a new logo for their bikewear division, inspired by her sunshine. She has motivated many to write, paint, and begin a life of faith. A quote from her memoriam by the Classics Department at the University of Virginia stated, and I quote, "She was a teacher's dream, keen, full of energy, and determined to do her best. She had an immaculate way of proceeding through her written work, always clear to read. She showed her work the way one might in solving a math problem, so that even on the rare occasion when she could not reason through to the correct answer, it was perfectly evident that it was indeed through reason that she was aiming to get there. The Classics Department will award her diploma posthumously in May. The honor is rarely bestowed on someone who dies before their senior year. She earned it every credit hour. Whitson and I will have the privilege of accepting it in her place. Margaret showed us what mercy looks like. Her brain aneurysm ruptured while she was alone. No one who knew her had to witness that trauma. She had no warning except for an occasional headache. It did not burst while she was riding her bike or driving a car or having a baby. She did not put others in harm's way. Good Samaritans were able to perform their newfound skill of CPR that kept her alive until we could be with her in those few precious moments to say our goodbyes. We witnessed something holy in that time. Grace, gratitude, and profound sorrow. The precious child that was never really ours to begin with returned to her father. We knew her wishes for her funeral. Maybe because we're a two-physician family, death is not a taboo subject. She wanted a simple coffin, no vault, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. The Lord of the Dance hymn and Psalm 139. It remains underlined and ribboned in her Bible. She made something so excruciatingly difficult easy. She rests with her Lowe ancestors in Cookville. The setting is pastoral and calm. Let us pause and think of heaven. What is it like? I focus on heaven a lot these days, as you can imagine. My pastor, Michael Williams, describes it as another dimension of which we are not aware. Does that mean that she is with us? I feel her spirit everywhere. I often find myself talking to her and asking her questions, like, where is that necklace? The lessons I have learned, as we all have learned through the life of dear Margaret, are infinite. The most important being that God is with us. We are not alone. Thanks be to God.